Hi, my name is Faith Payne, and I'm going to discuss a topic for action research. This is for a course at Aspen University. So the topic that I'm interested in exploring is nurse burnout. And the problem that I have identified is that there is an increased amount of nurse burnout since we've had an outbreak of COVID-19. And so having identified this problem, it's definitely something that I would be interested in finding solutions for. So let's start by defining burnout. So Chang, Xu, Wang, Chu, Lo, and Ting in 2017 did a study entitled How Does Burnout Impact the Three Components of Nursing Professional Commitment? And in that, they defined burnout as a lack of energy and emotion for work, psychological distress, emotional exhaustion, a self-perception of degraded work performance, and an occupational stress resulting from psychological and emotional demands. The signs and symptoms of burnout were identified by Decrell in 2017, and he entitled his article Nurse Burnout Symptoms, Know the Warning Signs. And the first one is that he said that nurses are always tired. They dread going to work, they're insensitive, they have overwhelming anxiety, and they're sick. So now that we know that the problem that needs to be solved is that we have these nurses with increased burnout rate, and we've had high turnover, usually due to burnout. And so the goal that I want to accomplish with this research plan is that I want to be able to have nurses join together and look at different things that are causing them to have burnout and different solutions that they can come up with to impact nurse burnout at the facility that I work, which is Northwest Medical Center in Bentonville, Arkansas. So the people that I need involved in this study are myself as the action researcher. I would need nurses from both day shift and night shift, and then the nurse managers or nurse leaders at the facility. It won't be as effective if the nurses come up with solutions that the managers think just can't happen. And so it's very important to have all these different people involved in nurse burnout and finding solutions. The obstacles that I foresee happening is that we do have these two very distinct shifts. Day shift can't generally stay out and come at a convenient time that would be helpful for night shift, and night shift doesn't really have time at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's not a normal time for them to be awake and for them to come to meetings. So that can be a huge obstacle to get both shifts together, and maybe night shift needs these certain things and day shift needs these certain things, or recognizes different things that impact them. So part of it will be getting these two shifts to talk together and come up with some common ground, what they think will be the most successful. The other obstacle right now is being able to get a large group in one place to communicate. At our facility, we do have Google Meet where we can have meetings that way, and that way we are not getting in a large group to discuss this. But that can also be a challenge, getting a good time for everybody to get together. And so part of it will be like, okay, maybe we have a day shift focus group and a night shift focus group. We have the managers involved in both of those calls as we're finding out their different desires as far as what they think will impact their burnout level the most. There are some strategies that Hendren discusses in 2010, and some of that would just be helpful to bring up for the nurses involved in the focus groups and doing interviews with. And so if we can bring up some of the different solutions that she had and what they think will be helpful. So one of the solutions that she had was a stress reduction class. Having somebody come in and talk about different ways to reduce stress in their life. create a space for relaxation. This is very challenging right now, and so that might be helpful for the nurses to come up with a mentor and buddy program. So finding nurses who have some seniority, be able to discuss with nurses with less seniority. A recognition and reward program, getting the managers involved, making sure that the nurses have the training and education they need, and then making employees aware of the employee assistance program and counseling that is available to them. And so the big thing that we would want to do is bring these different solutions up and then find out which one would be the most beneficial for the nurses involved. Then we could try one or two solutions and find out how they work. So how I would measure the effectiveness of this plan is that we would see what the retention rate was after 6 months, see where we are in a year, do periodic evaluation of this plan and find out if nurses are still suffering from a significant amount of burnout. The other thing would be to do surveys. What did they think of this intervention? Was this helpful? Was it not? Are we still having an increased rate of nurses leaving the facility? And then finding out how involved people were. Are the people who we did initial interviews and in that focus group still really involved in finding a solution? And so tracking that, we had this many people at the beginning who were very involved and wanted to be part of it, and now there's less or more people want to be involved and they want to find a solution. And so if there are less people involved, then this isn't an effective way of dealing with burnout, or people are just disengaged with it. So trying to find ways of engaging. Having good management support would be another way that I would measure the effectiveness of this plan. And so with nurse burnout, with COVID-19 causing increased stress on our nurses and on our facilities, we have to find a way to manage the nurse burnout. We want nurses to stay in the profession. And so by doing action research and involving the nurses in finding a solution, giving them options, we can hopefully retain them and find ways to help manage their burnout level. And we want them to also feel successful in the field. And by giving them ownership in this process, we can really help them with that. So this is my proposed action research plan on nurse burnout at Northwest Medical Center. Thank you so much for watching this video.